Okay, does anyone have anything they'd like to share this morning or comment on or ask any questions?
Yes, I want to share two things. The first is I really appreciated you had us in the application part feel the chi leading, like the chi extending, like when we were starting the application, like with a punch, feeling the chi going ahead, and then on the receiving end, like kind of doing the same thing, and like I found that really helpful because what I realized as I was going through the experience was that before I'd been connecting with the chi of the opponent, but I didn't realize that there was still like in my mind a bias towards the physical body. And like I was kind of using that as a means to connect with the physical body. So it was still like oriented, even as I was connecting with the chi, it was still like with the concept of physical body in mind. And it made me think of what you'd said. I've heard you talk about how when we think of the energy body, it's still like the concept is still with the physical body in mind, as opposed to like when we think of more like the light body and or the spirit body. And I had that, I feel like that distinction was more clear. And today it felt like I was connecting more with the energy of the light itself. And it felt easier actually. And it still felt like it included the physical body. It's not like it was disregarded, but it felt like it was less biased towards that or oriented towards that. And I just found the whole thing a lot easier, both for my movement and also connecting with my partner. So I wanted to share that. And then I had an experience in the form where when I was doing the form, I had experience before where my right wrist starts flapping. It's like shaking. It feels like that's kind of how my body wants to move. So I let it do that. But an interesting thing happened. I did it for a short period of time, then it stopped. And I had this feeling like there's this blockage was still there, but it's like the energy was there as potential energy, and my body wanted it to stay that way. Like it didn't want it to release, at least today. And I realized also I kind of have a bias towards, like the thing should be flowing, like that's better, like a judgment towards that. And I had this feeling like my body actually prefers it as potential energy for the time being, like that's better for it. And I realized that I had I had an assumption as to like, oh, it actually flowing or releasing is better, whereas that's actually not what my body wanted. It's not true. And that kind of gave me more understanding of why our body is the way it is, and sometimes it does want it to have a blockage like that. So anyway, I just wanted to share those things. Felt kind of related, and it was really helpful.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, really good wisdom. It's kind of, what's the word for it? I want to say first, just want to comment some things. The first one about the light body or the spirit body is moving with that. It's like when you become more aware of the energy and the energy moving, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of like when, it's like two kinds of the same coin. And when you do something like surfing, or when you do like an activity such as any kind of balancing, whether it's skateboards or surfing, or you actually don't look at your skateboard. If you do, you lose balance. You actually look into the horizon, which seems like it has nothing to do with the skateboard. And that distinction actually allows a person to do a lot better when they're doing it, and kind of like looking at the energetic portion when we're moving is kind of the same, where whether you're moving yourself or whether you're moving with someone else. And it's the less you can focus on the body, the more you actually can move the body. And one of my mentors, um, one of my teachers, and she said, don't, you know, if you just look at the leaves when they're moving, you don't see the wind. But it's not the leaves that are moving, it's the wind that's moving the leaves. And that's a very, to me, it's a very profound statement. And so kind of like just having something that allows you to have even that concept, and being able to actually look for what actually moves the leaves, I feel like it really enriches life. Like brings a whole new appreciation to everything. Uh, and ironically, it just starts resolving things in ways where we didn't even anticipate. It seems insubstantial, yet it solves all things substantial. And so, one of the reasons why when we read the Tao Te Ching, you know, it talks about the substantial and the insubstantial, and how it's the emptiness that solves everything. And you know, when we first read them without the understanding of these things, it's kind of like, what? But the more you practice, the more these things become palpable. And the more these things become palpable, the more appreciative we become actually of what to do. Like our perception of the physical really changes. Um, the same concept is kind of interesting. When I was learning about art, probably one of the best things I learned was to try not just fill the canvas, but actually to kind of look at the empty space and kind of look at how the empty space balances what you're filling. And that concept really changed. And so we do the same thing, actually. Um, we haven't gotten to this portion of the application yet, but when you start moving, you actually stop looking at the opponent. You actually start looking at the space around the opponent, and you move in relation to a space and not in relation to the opponent. And it's that practice is as profound as, or actually even more profound, I would say, than the practice currently you're going through, which is just to feel the other person. So it's kind of like the three aspects, right? There's the physical uh, body, the physical realm, and there's the energetic realm, and then there's the empty space realm. And so those are the three things that you get to study. But as you start studying it, the whole thing comes together, and you don't focus on one thing, but they start moving together in unison. So I just kind of wanted to just expound on that, since your study and energy is getting good. And so wanted to kind of bring in a little bit more perspective with something that will be coming next.
Thank you. That was super awesome and inspiring, and makes me just really appreciate the practice even more, because I feel like, at least for me, it's like a practical way to get to study, what you're talking about, like space, light, and energy, and the physical body, or whatever you want to call it, the three bodies. But it's like, it's not just a theory. You get to actually experience it, and it actually, I feel like in the past it had been a conceptual framework for me, but it hadn't really meant anything in my life. And I feel like the practice, you get to actually experience and interact with it and have a relationship with it and see what it does. So I really appreciate that.
I don't know whether it's any more practical. I think that we focus too much on practicality, even though I think practical, I mean, it's important. I think to me, what's actually really important, when we talk about practical, one of the key things that people say, oh, is this more effective, as a martial art, or I don't know about that. But I think it definitely increases your enjoyment of life or appreciation of life, because you get to study the different dimensions and the different experiences, or I want to say the different experience frame, the different aspects of the experience. And I think that that's actually allows us to have a better spiritual experience. I just wanted to make that, because I want to make sure that as the listeners are listening in, no one is thinking in terms of practicality, in terms of more effective and better performance. And it can certainly lend to that, but I want to make sure that that's never really the focus, because then you get into superiority comparison, and to me that's really poor. And no, not that you were saying any of that, but I just want to say that because it's just a really good way to be able to study different aspects of a person's experience that we're not even aware that it's there. And to be able to do that is such a it's a great opportunity to be able to have these experiences. And so I just kind of wanted to just put the emphasis there, because I find that I fell into that same trap when I met my last teacher, who, when I was learning these, I was like, oh, so is this what makes this better? And then he said something to the effect of, actually really kind of like evaded that question altogether, and says, sometimes when you study these things, you get lucky and you get to be really good, whatever that meant.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. And so I said, well, isn't this called the grand ultimate fist? And he said, well, getting to have great martial prowess, uh, you know, can be a side benefit. It can be a side benefit of Tai Chi. And so I took that to mean as, oh, like as in like if you study really hard,
Yeah.
or right, or
Yeah,
if you're
totally.
really talented,
Yeah.
and it's like understanding everything from a performance perspective, right? So so I remember that conversation. Now, after studying it, and then after um, learning it, I was like, oh, I see.
That's awesome.
It's yeah,
I can
but I
totally
do,
relate to that.
yeah. So, but I do feel like it really helps someone explore themselves to the fullest. And and I think the competition, you know, is not with someone else, but it's with oneself. Like just learning to know oneself a bit better each day. So, anyways, so kind of just wanted to uh, talk about that just a bit in relation to the energy body, the physical body, and then the space body, the three bodies, and make that a bit more concrete, so that we can have those experiences. And then the last one, oh, could you remind me?
Yeah, it was about the blockage in my
Oh,
wrist.
that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. You know, the Tai Chi principle. Uh, someone asked me, people always think in terms of absolutes, right? Like this is always the best, right? Um, and when someone asks me, you know, a question, I ask, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Because depending on what you're trying to accomplish, better is defined differently. And and so the universe is vast, and what you experience with your wrist about the release is that there's actually a benefit to holding things on. So most people don't realize that when you actually stress things out, the stress actually increases. Um, it does have actually a toughening effect. So like the way you strengthen the body is by actually putting pressure to it, and then the pressure makes the body build itself. So there's definitely a place for pressure. And then if you balance that with rest, then you can actually make the body stronger in a balanced way. But pressure itself is imbalanced and it's forceful. And so, but it's not bad. It's a natural part of nature. So we should not make pressure the enemy. We should make a lack of awareness of what we want. And because we're not aware of that, causing ourselves suffering, we should make, if there is an enemy, we should make that the enemy. Because one of the reasons we do what we do that we think we don't want to do is because we don't realize what benefit we're getting out of it, right? So, anyways, so I just kind of wanted to say that, I just kind of want to expand the idea on that. And so, not that you need to, I kind of like how you've just been giving yourself the freedom to kind of just notice that your wrist wanted to actually be congested in that way and not release potential energy. That's really good. Shows non-attachment, shows awareness, and shows, just being present with yourself. And what I'd like to suggest is that now kind of see why it wants to do that, what benefit it's getting out. And then your conscious mind will become aware of your unconscious, the wisdom of your unconscious as to what it's trying to do for you.
Thank
And
you.
that, oh, welcome.
I go ahead.
And that, yeah, I was just, no, I just, and that's, I feel like a very exciting journey. Getting to understand your unconscious, is to understand your hero's journey. So, okay, that's actually pretty much it. I just wanted to just kind of just expand just a little bit so that just the next step becomes a bit more clear on your journey of exploration. Or I should say, like, not that's the only next step, but some possible pointers to kind of look at as you're exploring.
Thank you. That is a very awesome next step, and it's already helped. I can feel some things coming, and I feel that feels really fruitful. I appreciate you giving that context and a finger pointing at the moon for me to find the moon.
That was That was pretty cool analogy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Okay, the I have just a little bit time for another question or comment or sharing a short one. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to share this morning?
Hello?
Yes.
I'd like to share something kind of um, interesting, also kind of related to the spirit body.
Yes.
I felt like a really strong connection to my spirit body today, and was like kind of feeling how it wanted to manifest, like different aspects of it. And that was really cool. Like it was kind of like getting to know a person or getting to know a character. And I was like, oh, it's like this, and it wants to be like this, and this is how it wants to be kind of in the world. And it kind of allowed me to, I don't know, like connect to that aspect of myself more clearly. And so I just wanted to share that. That was kind of a different thing than I expected when you say connect to your spirit body, because I think I still also have a bias to the physical, like, oh, it's going to feel a certain way. But it was more like it had a certain nature. And that's kind of what came through. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. It's a bit surprising, right? It's surprising how distinct it is, because we think it's gonna be not as distinct because we are used to thinking of the physical body as distinct, but then when the spirit body becomes distinct, it's like, as you said, it's got its own nature, and you start realizing, oh, and it's actually kind of, how should I say, much more purely you, right? It's like,
yeah, it was
yeah,
like kind of, it was uncanny.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, I haven't been manifesting this way in some area, or it didn't occur to me, but it feels really like that would feel really good.
Yes. It's more purely you. So very, very cool. So yeah. That's what's the word for it? It's very distinct. And once you start realizing that, you really start actually seeing, as you said, how you're manifesting things. And you start seeing things a little differently, because you start dialing into the it's kind of interesting. So in the Tao Te Ching, there's a line in there. It says, if you look at the if you look at the manifestation, then you see the cause. But if you look beyond that, you see, the mystery of things. And what it means is that if you look at the physical, like the concrete things, then you basically you see the results of the what you believe to be the cause, which is a very interesting thing to say. It's like, it's not that you're not really seeing, but when you look at beyond the physical world, you actually see the mystery. And what that means is that you actually get to see something beyond what you thought was cause and effect. And it's really interesting, because what you get to see is that when I started dialing more into spirit body, I started realizing that a lot of the things that I wanted was constantly manifesting, but I just didn't see it before. Because when you tend to your attention is in the physical body, your your attention is not on the manifestation of things, meaning, because manifestation has actually a lot more to do with energy. And so when you are in your spirit body, you see the overall flow of manifestation, because you stop looking at the consequence. So your physical body looks at the consequence that's happening. And so it's either noticing the good consequences or the bad consequences, but it's actually what comes at the end, right? You don't see what is coming in the process. You don't see the overall flow of what is happening. And until you get more concretely connected to the physical, the spirit body, you don't start realizing how consistently and constantly you're manifesting. And it's almost like when you first connect to your spirit body, you start almost waking up to a dream and say, oh, wow, my life is filled with the things that I wanted, and they're here. And I can see how the things that I want is also manifesting now. And so that's what you described is actually a very common phenomenon. When you start relating to your spirit body, then you are less distracted by the fear of consequences. It's not that it's not there, but it doesn't hold your attention as acutely, if you will. It's not like a train wreck where your attention is pulled to it. Your attention is less attached. It's actually not attached. So you see more broadly. And that's the benefit. So there's more freedom with the spirit body. And then eventually you come into connecting to just emptiness. And then you start experiencing everything from emptiness, and you start experiencing things from a conception perspective, from a timeless perspective. And that's actually interesting because not only do you see the process, you start seeing the inception of things and the ending of things differently from a manifestation process. And so you start like seeing things beyond manifestation. And so those are kind of like some of the things that comes up with. It's kind of interesting. Today's topic actually keeps centering around the three bodies, doesn't it? And so, but anyway, so I just kind of want to just say that to the experience that you had. So as you stay in your spirit body, you'll probably start seeing more and more of how your prayers or how your desires or how your dreams are actually happen manifesting. And you'll start remembering what you wanted in your childhood and how they're here. And some things are still actually, some things are still actually manifesting. And and then you'll start seeing how the things that you want are actually already here or are unfolding, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim. Yeah, it feels really inspiring and cool to play with. Thank you for the additional description and what to look for.
You're welcome. So have fun with that. Okay, now I'm done cleaning, so I gotta get going. But you all have fun with playing with your three bodies.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim.
Welcome. Welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Goodbye to you all. Welcome. Bye.